You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
The Heisman Trophy include Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty and Colorado wide receiver and defensive back Travis Hunter, also Dylan Gabriel and Cam Ward.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM hosts Tider Insider TV, Crimson Tide Kickoff, play-by-play for Alabama sports, and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for The Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome into The Gary Harris Show for this Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. I got my main man, Chase Brumfeld, taking care of things and getting your phone calls through on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. We're ready to go today despite the rain. It's been a rainy couple of days here in West Alabama, and but the temperatures are not bad. It's very pleasant temperature-wise. Last night, we had the Tuscaloosa Christmas parade, and the rain held off. So it actually was a nice night for a parade, and a lot of people, line the streets of Tuscaloosa for that big event. But this morning, it's been pretty rainy. Been raining off and on, and that's just the way it is. And I think the forecast is for rain really up until this evening, and then I think it's supposed to be getting out of here and going to be sunshine moving in for Wednesday and Thursday, and then I think by the weekend there's a chance for some more showers. But all in all, it's not too bad. All right, we got a great show on tap for you this morning. I'm going to run it down in just a second. First, though, I need to tell you, as always, this hour of the Gary Harris Show being brought to you by our good friends at Alabama Credit Union, member-owned and not-for-profit. It really is just a better way of banking, and I would encourage you to check out Alabama Credit Union if you want to become more than just a customer. If you want to become a member too, you can do so. Find out more at alabamacu.com. That's alabamacu.com. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership and join today and feel good about your money. And put a little extra change in your pocket. All right, here's our lineup for today, and it is a good one today. Good show lined up at 9:30. It's the Rocket Man, Drew DeArmond, 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville. He'll talk some ball with us here on the Gary Harris Show, as he does every Tuesday. Then at 10:15, it's the Tennessee Titans Report with Kayla Anderson from Ramon, Kayla, and Will in Nashville, 104.5 The Zone. And wow, another tough loss for the Titans on Sunday as they lost 10-6 to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had not been able to beat anybody. But been a long year for Tennessee Titans football. But we'll get the latest from Kayla. Then at 10:30, Coach Randy Ross will join us, former Alabama assistant football coach, recruiting coordinator, and also worked for many years at SMU. So some interesting insight from Randy as he worked at both Alabama and SMU. And it was SMU that got into the college football playoff over the Crimson Tide. He also worked at Arkansas and was a very successful high school coach for many years as well. So Coach Randy Ross will join us at 10:30 this morning. As I said earlier, your phone calls are welcome on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline at 205-342-9904. We'd love to hear from you. Got a lot of good calls yesterday. Had some good interaction. Had a lot of calls where people were like, you know what, Alabama should have been in the playoff. And then we had several calls from people who were, nope, they shouldn't be in. Tom sounded off yesterday very adamantly that Alabama did not deserve to be in the playoff. And a couple other calls agreed with him. So there's a mixed bag as far as the way people feel, I think, about Alabama not getting in. And as I said before, when they lost to Oklahoma, I remember coming on the show and saying, and on social media, Chase, and I said, you're right, Alabama can focus on just winning the Iron Bowl because that's really all that's left. But the way it played out, even with a loss to Oklahoma, after looking at the body of work for Alabama versus other teams, I felt like that the Crimson Tide should have been in that playoff, but they're not. So Relia Quest Bowl, New Year's Eve in Tampa against Michigan. That is the assignment. A number of Alabama players have gone in the portal. We talked about that yesterday, or are going in the portal, and that's not unusual. It's happening all around the country, but that's something they'll deal with. But as far as the players that are eligible to play in the game, head coach Kalen DeBoer did say on Sunday evening that he's expecting the majority of the Alabama team will be available and will participate in the bowl game. That's good news because, again, you're going to go play in these bowl games. Some teams are going to be more gutted than others. There's going to be some of these teams that have guys opt out and not play. And clearly, if your team is one that has the majority of your team participating, you're going to have a better chance to win the game. I mean, that's just, pretty simple to figure out that. And hopefully Alabama will be one of those teams. Monday Night Football last night, you had two really tough luck teams, the Dallas Cowboys and the Cincinnati Bengals playing each other. Well, one of them's luck was bound to change because one team had to win, one team had to lose. And the Bengals, probably more so than the Cowboys, had games that had gotten away from them, and they're still a pretty good team. I don't think the Cowboys are a pretty good team, but somebody had to win last night, and what a game it was from the standpoint of it played out about like you would expect. It was 20-20 late in the game, about 4 minutes or something to go, and the Bengals were punting. The Cowboys put a punt block on and blocked the punt. They blocked the punt. So you're thinking they're going to get the ball and have a chance to win the game. Not so fast. They blocked the punt, and the Bengals kept possession. How'd that happen? Well, guy breaks through the line. I'm surprised he was in great position that he didn't just stone it. In other words, block it and then go back toward the end zone. Because he had both hands there to block it. But it hit off of his hands and popped up in the air and went past the line of scrimmage. Well, once it goes past the line of scrimmage, if the blocking team touches the ball, of course, they can recover it. It's their ball. But if they touch the ball and don't possess it, it becomes a live ball, just like on a regular punt. Well, after it got blocked up in the air and went forward, a player for the Cowboys came up and tried to field it off the bounce. Well, he didn't field it. It hit off of his body, off his hands. I'm watching it right now, in fact, and right into a Bengals player's hands. And so it was Cincinnati Bengals football. And from there, Joe Burrow hit Jamar Chase after the Bengals ran a couple of plays for probably like about a 40-yard touchdown pass to make it 27-20. Cowboys got it back, but couldn't do anything with it. And the Bengals won the game 27-20. So, we see a lot of strange things in football these days. Games are never really over anymore. We see teams that are down 17 points with, 3, 4, 5 minutes to go, win the game. We see Hail Marys that are converted when the defense has 8 or 9 guys around the goal line. We see teams going for it from their own inside their own 20-yard line. So we see a lot of strange things. But that is one of the more strange things to see when you block a punt and you don't get the ball and the other team gets, and it was like 4th and a mile for the Bengals too. So obviously that cost the Cowboys the game. Just absolutely crazy. Something else this morning that I want to talk about, And again, if you want to give us a ring, 205-342-9904 is the number. And in fact, we'll get to a phone call here real quick. But let me make this point. AP Top 25 College Basketball Poll is out, or came out yesterday. And it is dominated by SEC teams. Alabama is number 7. And what's really interesting is that the SEC went 14-2 against the ACC in that SEC-ACC challenge. And listen to this. AP Top 25. Tennessee is number 1. Auburn is number 2. Kentucky is number 5. That's 3 of the top 5 from the SEC. This sounds like the football poll from years past. Alabama is number 7. So 4 of the top 7 are from the SEC. And then Florida is number 9. So 5 of the top 9 are from the SEC. Then you add in Oklahoma at 13, Texas A&M at 17, Ole Miss at 19, and Mississippi State at 25. Wow. Maybe the SEC is a basketball league. All right, let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline and welcome in Jim to the program. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, you was talking about that game being tied late. So it made me think, what is, with Georgia going 8 overtimes against Georgia Tech, and, of course, LSU and Texas A&M, went 9. What is wrong during the regular season to go back to maybe after 2 overtimes, instead of changing the game where you, go for 2 points, you got to go for 2 points from the second touchdown. You got to go for 2 from there on. And remember Alabama's Auburn game, okay? What is wrong with maybe after 2 regular overtimes, without – is you just have a tie during the regular season. I mean, just, because, if you just keep playing, it don't really come to who's really better. It's just because, it's based on a 2-point play over and over. Just let it be a tie. And the reason I'm saying this, I use Alabama as an example. Say they tied Vanderbilt instead of losing to them. And so they had 2 losses and 1 tie. That could be a reason that they did beat, they would get in over SMU. And I'm saying that goes for any team. In other words, why have to make one team lose if you can't decide it at 2 overtime periods? Just let it be a tie.
No, I agree with you. That stems from, of course, in, years past in college football, there was no overtime. So if it was, 20-20 at the end of regulation, it was a tie. And people complained about ties. Ties are not any good. I'm with you. I don't like the 2-point conversion rule. I understand why they put it in to keep it from, trying to end it sooner. But you're right. It just comes down to then who can make a play from the 2.5-yard line, So I like the NFL version better, although I wish the NFL would allow both teams to touch the ball regardless. The way it works now, if the team that gets the ball wins the toss, scores a touchdown, the game's over. Now, if they kick a field goal, the other team gets it. Or if they don't score, the other team gets it. But if they score a touchdown, it's over. And I'd like to see both teams be guaranteed a possession. But what I'd like to see is just, say, another 10-minute – instead of a 15-minute quarter, let the 2 teams play a 10-minute quarter. And if it's still tied after that, like you said, it's a tie. Instead of doing this, this song and dance. Plus, they count the stats. Which I don't like in college. Let's say your defense is giving up 12 points a game, and then they play one of these crazy overtimes where it goes, 8 overtimes, and you give up a couple touchdowns, and you give up all these 2-point conversions, and those points count against your total, which is, to me, unfortunate, and stats count from the overtime. So I don't know that there's a perfect system, but I'm with you. I'm not a big fan of this 2-point conversion deal that they do to decide the game.
The rules that drastically and say you got to go for 2 now. That's just. I understand why they did it, but the other alternative is all right. Just limit the amount of overtimes and just declare the tie. Don't make all these crazy rules up. But yeah, it'd be better if they did it like the NFL, like you're saying. They each get 1 possession, or maybe have you have to score a touchdown to end it. On your first possession. But then just let it be a tie, and just, it's nothing wrong with a tie, at least during the regular season. Because, like I say, when you play somebody, especially, if you want to talk about you got to play people in your own conference, and this is any conference, whether it's Oregon or Ohio State and all, someone's got to lose. I mean, so that right there is going to hurt you as far as playoffs. Well, if they keep decided to say 2 overtime periods, they both get a tie. It's not going to hurt either team, but as bad as one of them losing. So just, but I'm sure that's not going to happen. But I just don't, I don't like the rules.
Well, they are always looking to tweak stuff, Jim. So, maybe they'll take a look at it and try to come up with something different. I don't know, but I'm kind of in your camp with you play all this football, and then you say, well, we're going to spot the ball at the 2.5-yard line, and that's how we're going to decide the game. We're going to play it out until somebody makes it, and then somebody doesn't. So I don't know.
Let me ask you
what it is.
Do you with talking about the out of conference schedule, like why schedule someone that's good if it's going to play? Don't you think this is going to severely hurt the SEC from going to 9 games if they were going to go? Just because that's going to be an automatic loss, for the teams.
I don't know. I can't. Right now, I know that this year at least it's 8 games, and I don't know because I don't know what is going to happen. I think right now the playoff system that's in place may not be in place very long. And what I mean by that is they could expand to 16 teams, or you could see, at some point you could see what we've heard has been kicked around, and that's whether it's the Big Ten and the SEC, and then a few other teams or just some of the major teams pulling out and forming much like the NFL, forming their own league where they play for their own national championship, and these teams that don't make it into that league aren't with them, and that they play all the games among themselves. So then let's just say you had this 40 team or 34, 36 team power league. They would, from what I understand, if that ever happened, they wouldn't play any teams outside of that league. So every week you would be playing another comparable team. There would be no more playing the Mercers or the Louisiana Techs or anything like that. So that could be down the road, because I think I don't know. There's just a lot of things they're looking at. Money, TV ratings, all of those things are factors. So it will be interesting, Jim. So much has changed in the last 5 years. 5 years from now, it's going to be so interesting to see what it looks like as compared to right now, because I don't think it'll look the same.
Yeah, what do you think about doing not that I'm a big fan of, but like college basketball, like just say they had a 2-game play-in the following week, and it'd have been SMU, Alabama, or whoever, was 12 and 13.
Yeah. The problem with that is then you're adding another game. And already now you're talking about some of these teams having to play 17 games if they make it all the way to the championship. So I don't know. There's so many things probably that they're looking at in the like I said, it's changed so much so fast that I don't think we've even gotten a good handle on. We still don't know how to handle NIL. We still don't know how to handle NIL and the portal and signing day. And there's so many things right now that are kind of they're just playing by ear. So we'll see what happens. Hey, I got to hit the break. Thank you, Jim.
All right, now.
All right, 9:19. Tom, you stay on hold. We'll get to you on the other side of the break. This is the Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM. WTVC, your home for Alabama sports.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Tuesday morning. Heavy rain is moving across West Alabama at this hour and will be through much of the rest of the day before tapering off tonight. Standing water on roadways a hazard right now, as are 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts that could knock down trees and cause some scattered power outages. Numerous wrecks have been reported across the area. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage all throughout the day. It's absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special, Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Get a meat and 3 vegetables for just $8.49. Or for a lighter appetite, try the Lucky Lunch soup, salad, or sandwich combo. I'll see you at the Free. Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee.
So you can spend less time searching and more time connecting with talented candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgage.
Here for a limited time. Shop now at Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Mostly cloudy and very mild today with a few periods of rain, maybe a thunderstorm in spots, the high 70. Tonight, rain ending by midnight, then turning colder, the low 37. For tomorrow, partially sunny and breezy, the high at 48. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 66 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to The Gary Harris Show.
Goal line in, touchdown, Alabama.
On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9. And streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:24 sounds of the season. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and we are going to jump back out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, and that's where we find Tom. What's up, Tom?
Morning, Gary.
Tom, you going to check in?
Hey, how are you?
Good.
You know, y'all were talking about tweaking this and that for the playoffs and the games and stuff like this. And I happen to think about a question that I've had for years that I don't understand the logic and the rules of the game of college football. And it is this. If you decide you want to do an onside kick and the ball goes 10 yards and you jump on it, it's your ball. Is that correct?
That's right. It's got to go 10 yards before the receiving before the kicking team can touch it. Yeah.
If you kick off a ball and it goes to the end zone and nobody touches it, it's a dead ball. If the receiving team don't touch it, it's a dead ball. Why couldn't you go down there and if they don't cover it, you cover it in the end zone, it's a touchdown?
Well, Tom, I think that if they don't, the way the rule is now is you have to if it lands in the end zone and you don't touch it, but if you don't declare, in other words, if you don't if the ball lands in the field of play, even if it's at the 2-yard line, it's a live ball. And at one time, I do know that you come up with the weirdest takes on things, by the way. I can't. What makes you think of these things? I'm just curious. But if in the past, if
you're behind and you score a touchdown, but you need another score, that could be a valuable play to somebody, that strategically kicks it and has fast people that can get down there and get on it, You know, I think it would be an interesting play to add to the playbook.
Well, they do now. If I remember, because I remember there was the Sugar Bowl when Alabama played Ohio State, and Christian Jones. There was something about him fielding the ball in the end zone, it being a live ball. So I know in the past the ball was live until it was, the receiving team declared that they were going. Now, they can stand up and fair catch it in the field of play, and they spot it out at the 25-yard line. So the kick, and in the NFL, if you have an onside kick, you have to declare that you're going to. In other words, you have to let the receiving team know that you're going to onside kick it. You can't onside surprise kick it anymore. So those are things that they're always tweaking anyway. I don't know, Tom. You come up with some of the weirdest things I've ever heard. I mean, what makes you think? Like I said, what makes you think of these things about kickoffs? And I don't know.
What about this? Let me ask you this: the basketball player. What time is he supposed to commit? Do you know?
Sometime this morning. He's supposed to be doing it on First Take. So, and that's on right now on ESPN. You're talking about A.J. Devontae, the player out of that's going to pick between Brigham Young and Alabama, the number one player in the country. Sometime this morning. So between 9 and 11. It's while I'm on the air because that's when the First Take show runs. So anytime, but I've got it on and I'm watching it. So as soon as he makes an announcement, I'll have it here on the show.
You think Drew may have some info since he keeps up with recruiting?
Well, I'll ask him. I think the info is that he's narrowed it down. He and his family have narrowed it down to Alabama and BYU. And I think BYU's NIL offers a lot more than Alabama's. So I think Alabama's trying to – not that Alabama hasn't offered him some money. I know they have, but not as much as BYU. But I think they're trying to counter with, we can prepare you for the NBA, and the system and style that we play is more suited to you going forward. So, but my gut instinct is that he's probably going to take the bigger money offer. But we'll see.
Yeah, I was curious as to what time it was.
Yeah, it's coming up during this show. They don't want to give you an exact time because they want people to continue to watch. So they're not going to say exactly what time they're going to have him on to do it. But it's going to be on First Take, and First Take is on now, and it'll be on until 11 o'clock. So sometime between now and 11 o'clock, AJ will make his announcement. And, as soon as he does, I'll pass it along on the show.
I listen to the radio. But, I'm criticized for the questions I ask. I can't believe it.
You're not criticized. You come up with some stuff. It's random, and that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing, Tom. It's just sometimes I can't answer some of the things that you come up with.
Well, I told you, man. I thought I was tired of my sophisticated questions.
But I'll let you know on AJ just as soon as he announces.
Bye.
All right, thank you, Tom. All right, 9:30 here on the Gary Harris Show, the YMCA of Tuscaloosa. It's an overcast, dreary, rainy day. Might be a good day for you to get a workout in. How about that? Get inside the Y and get a good workout in. And if you're not a member, maybe today's the day to become a member. Run by 2300 13th Street. Let them show you around, and the Y is ready for you when you're ready for the Y. We'll be back with Drew DeArmond next here on the Gary Harris Show.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept, Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after.
Save big money on Masterforce automotive tools at Menards. Don't get left out in the cold. Easily jumpstart your vehicle with a Masterforce 1500-amp lithium-ion jump starter. It's portable and designed for jump-starting vehicles with engines up to 8 cylinders, has spark-resistant clamps and preheating technology that warms batteries for easier jump starting in extreme cold weather conditions. Get the Masterforce 1500-amp jump starter today for $119.99. Sale price good through December 15th.
Evansville, Harper Hill, Water Oak, Phipps, and Havana. Take cover now. Move to a basement or an interior room on the lowest floor of a sturdy building. Avoid windows. If you are outdoors, in a mobile home, or in a vehicle, move to the closest substantial shelter and protect yourself from flying debris. Repeating, a tornado warning has been issued until 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time for the following county: Hale, Alabama.
Tuscaloosa and Northport.
Find Tide on Twitter @Tide109 to keep up with show announcements, guests, and our reporters in the field.
.933, welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and it's time for the Rocket Man, Drew DeArmond, from 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville, where he co-hosts Talking Ball with Scott Tyson weekday mornings from 7 until 9. How are you doing, Drew?
Good, Gary. How are you?
Doing well. It's Tuesday, so we're nearly 48 hours removed from SMU being selected over Alabama for that final spot in the college football playoff. What were your thoughts then? And now that you've had some time to process it, what are your thoughts now?
Alabama got screwed, but I mean, it is what it is. You got a bunch of Democrats running the process who wouldn't know a football from a basketball, and they don't study the game. They talk out of both sides of their mouths, just like the leaders of this country the last 4 years. And that's just the way it is. I mean, they say that Alabama has a better resume than Miami the week before, and strength of schedule matters, and then they turn it around on Alabama the very next week with SMU, who didn't play anybody, who didn't win their conference championship game. Schedule strength obviously didn't matter, and the way they justified is, oh, what a great game it was, an ACC championship game. Well, that ACC champion lost to Georgia by 30 and lost to South Carolina. Neither one of those teams would be in the college football playoff if they were in the SEC. SMU might not even be bowl eligible. Okay, let's just call it like it is. But again, the process has to be, revamped. Alabama lost to Oklahoma. It was a very bad loss, very bad performance, left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, and so it ended up biting Alabama in the end. But Alabama is one of the top 12 teams. This was a sham of a committee, a sham of a field. I mean, it makes no sense when the ACC champion isn't even seated above the pathetic SMU Mustangs who got in after playing the vaunted Houston Christian. And then you have to listen to idiots who are out of touch like Colin Cowherd tell you that Alabama doesn't play anybody, But he also didn't realize Joe Burrow played at Ohio State before LSU. So, I don't know, he's paid millions of dollars, but an idiot's an idiot, Gary.
All right, Drew. For Alabama now, you have to kind of regroup and of course, the portal, announcements are already coming out, but you play a Michigan team on New Year's Eve and the ReliaQuest Bowl down in Tampa, a 5-loss Michigan team, but still it is a rematch from last year.
Tornado warning has been issued for Hale County. This goes all the way up until 10:30 a.m. I'm looking here. It's just radar indicated. Again, nothing has been seen with this and likely wouldn't be. There is just a tremendous amount of rain out ahead of this. Overall speed with this, let's see here. Most of these today have been moving at about 40 miles an hour. It looks like this one's moving northeast at 30. So areas in the path of this are going to be, again, Harper Mill, Wedgeworth, Evansville, Havana. This is, let's see, getting closer here. This is 69. So this is a very busy thoroughfare through
just wanted to let everybody know we are on Town Square Media Tuscaloosa on all of our stations at the moment because of a tornado warning for Hale County until 10:30 a.m. So we are on all of our stations.
That you are in the polygon. It looks like the area of rotation is going to end up is now just to your east, so you should be just about in the clear. Hold tight though if you're in your safe place. Sawyerville, you're to the south of this particular warning here and will likely not be impacted. But again, one of these really quick, brief spin-ups that we talked about on the morning show that were certainly possible today. And this is the only warning we have on the map right now for this rotation here. This is headed at about 30 miles an hour towards Highway 69. So the next up for this would be Harper Hill. If you live in this particular area here, it's got, of course, State Road 69. You have County Road 29, which is out ahead here. And looking even further down the road, if this were to hold together, places like Ingram and perhaps Hogglesville, if it continues on this present trajectory. So it looks like there might be a potential debris signature. This time of year, you can get some interesting things when it comes to seeing maybe radar or debris within the atmosphere. You think of what's falling from the trees right now, lots of leaves. It's windy, and leaves getting kicked up could give potentially a false look. So this is a look at our debris tracker. Basically what this is doing is it's scanning the atmosphere, and anything that does not look like a hydrometeor, meaning rain, hail, it's going to come and show as this orange. So this would be what you'd call a debris signature. And if we overlay this with where that circulation is, there certainly could be something there. So keeping an eye on the National Weather Service here as they continue to watch this very, very closely. And as we would kind of expect in a scenario like today, the most recent scan here appears to have broadened out just a little bit. So I'm going to take it back a scan. We're going to take a look at this and how it's going to evolve here. But you look back, see where it's brighter green in the reds right over Wedgeworth. That's pretty decent rotation. And then we watch the next two scans, and it's really broadened out. See how there's not those bright greens, not the bright reds. So it's still there. And a lot of times these cells will oscillate, they'll pulse. You'll see, one scan looks good, the next does not. So tornado.
If you're on County Road 34, 36, those are both right in the pathway right now. County Roads 34 and 36.
The only warning in place right now. We'll go to the DMA view here, and a lot of rain, a lot of very heavy rain has come through several locations. We had a couple aerial flood advisories, some flooding of roadways here, but this is the one warning in place. There is not any watch currently in place either at this time. This is the lone warning, is that tornado warning there in Hale County. So if you're just now joining us, sorry to interrupt Talk of Alabama and your Tuesday morning here with a tornado warning. We have not had a lot of these this year, so we'll dive back into this one. Again, remember, with tornadoes, you're not going to see them in a scenario like this. You don't ever want to try to go outside as much as you might be a weather enthusiast. A lot of people are. But there is a lot of rain out ahead of the lead edge of this, and it's probably shrouded in rain. So now you're seeing a much more broad view here of this rotation. Again, I'll take you back a couple scans.
It's just a little bit south of Moundville, by the way, and Moundville's getting extremely heavy rain at the moment. Extremely. Cypress, Stewart, Moundville are all right in that area, and then the warning is just a few miles south down Route 69.
And this is a radar-indicated tornado. As of right now, no confirmation, but a radar-indicated tornado. So you should be in your safe place if you're listening to us in Hale County this morning.
Yes, as it now is headed right for it's going to cross over 69 at Harper Hill in just a moment. And Havana, that area as well. Havana to Harper Hill on 69 is where it's at.
And I think that's about the only thing of reference here. That is where this is going to come right over. It's moving at about 30, 35 miles an hour. And this will eventually cross over 69 towards County Road 29. Next up would be Ingram. Let's see if we can get a timing on this. Yeah, only about 8 miles away from Ingram, and even closer as you get towards the county line there, towards Bibb County, about 15 miles. This will be there in about a half hour or so, and indeed we'll have to watch this one closely. Again, you would not see any indication of this coming. Something else that's interesting about this, too, we use lightning a lot of times as a identifier of thunderstorms when they have intensified or when they are intensifying, and there has not been any lightning with this particular cell here to this point. That does not mean it is not a dangerous system here, as we do have that tornado warning in place. So in addition to the potential of a tornado, there's just because there's a tornado warning, if there is or isn't a tornado, a lot of times there's some gusty winds with this as well. So that is something to be aware of here, again, if you are in Hale County. So next up, further down the line, we'd be looking at, as I mentioned, Bibb County. So we'll draw out a storm track here from kind of where this thing is centered. And since we're going about 30 miles an hour, we'll gauge this up here. Again, this will be at about the county line there, Bibb County line, at right around 10 o'clock here this morning, if indeed it does hold together.
You're listening to Town Square Media weather coverage, breaking weather coverage. A tornado warning continues for Hale County. And this reportedly came out of nowhere. It's moving east-northeast, south of Moundville. Most likely this won't last very long, according to our weather observers, as the atmosphere is not favorable for a long-track tornado. So that is the good news.
Yes. We're on 92.9 WTUG, Praise 93.3, 95.3 The Bear, 97.5 MeTV FM, Catfish 100.1, Tide 100.9, Alt 101.7, and 105.1 The Block.
And we're monitoring our weather partner, ABC 3340.
All of us here on multiple ways to do so, but having a weather radio is great. Having a good means to follow on social media these days is great. Apps on your phone is wonderful, especially as we go through the next couple of hours. This is the part of Alabama where we will have that potential for a brief spin-up or some gusty winds. So here's now the latest scan coming in from the National Weather Service radar there in Calera, and starting to see, again, more of those greens showing up here. And where you see that red and that green, that is where you most likely have your circulation. So that would be right in here. This is just a couple miles from Harper Hills. So heads up there. This is crossing over 69. Anyone who lives over in Hale County or has driven through here knows 69 is a pretty busy thoroughfare running from Tuscaloosa, Moundville, all the way down to Greensboro here. So this will be crossing over that busy highway. A lot of trees along that highway as well. Pine trees especially, and cells like this, whether they've got a tornado or not, produce some decent winds, and this will flatten those trees pretty quickly. It looks like this cell is beginning to cycle, and this is certainly a indication of that tightening back up here. So I'm going to put this in a very brief loop over 30 minutes. We'll zoom out a little bit and kind of give you an idea of where this is headed, the entire storm motion here. And this has tightened up, broadened out, tightened up, broadened out. And these things tend to cycle. They're cyclical. They'll intensify, they'll weaken. And our better instabilities are being found here to the south of Birmingham. And this will continue throughout much of the afternoon is this part of Alabama having a little bit more in the way of instability. So other areas here as we look down the line at the reflectivity products would be places like Centerville, maybe Calera, Jemison. This is way down the road, and there's a good chance that this storm evolves, whether for stronger or weaker before it gets there. But you look at this line, I'll just go ahead and draw one on here of where our threat is probably greatest today, and it's going to be south of a boundary of about here. You got a little bit more instability in places like Clanton, like Jemison, like there in Coosa County, Elmore County, because we haven't had the rains. Areas to the north, like Birmingham, we had soaking rain today. What that does is stabilizes the atmosphere. So these areas further south that haven't been contaminated with that morning rain, that morning cooling, are going to be a bit more likely to have that instability and a bit more likely to sustain a cell that is like this currently moving through. So if you're in Centerville, if you're in Bibb County, you're not under a warning at this time, but I would caution you, hey, be weather aware. If you know someone that's down there, say, hey, there's a suspicious storm that's back to the west, and they're going to be watching it because it has shown the potential to rotate here, at least in recent scans. So let's jump back into this one here. Again, we are following this. The time is 9:44. This warning went out at about 9:30 here, and it is for the Hale County area. This might be the weakest scan I have seen since hopping on here and really watching this. I watched this back when it was closer to Utah, and it was just starting to ramp up, starting to rotate. This has a very, very broad, in fact, very weak, if any, rotation left with it, which is good news as it approaches Harper Hill. And that last scan is even more so showing the degradation of this particular cell. So
if you're on 69 right now, Harper Hill is where the storm is, and like Evan just talked about, it is beginning to weaken, which is great news. That still, doesn't mean you're safe yet, but it is really right over Highway 69 and County Road 31, like moving towards 31, and then on its way after that towards Ingram. So if you're listening in Havana, Harper Hill, it's probably just got a downpour in those areas of Havana and Harper Hill. But the tornado is right around 69.
And we have pea-sized hail being reported in parts of Hale County right now.
Okay, that makes sense because it's all solid red, so that's a lot of a lot of rain, hail, all rolled into one.
You are to be in your safe place as long as this warning is in existence for Hale County. And as of now, that's through 10:30 this morning.
Yes, it's moving east at about 35 miles per hour, which is fairly slow. That's the only bad thing is that it can sit over an area for a little while. But it is moving 35 miles, so it's starting to move through that Harper Hill area towards Ingram.
Show you what's happening on the big picture. There is no watches in place. Our severe weather window is just now opening and really goes until early this afternoon, but could vary based on the timing of everything moving. You'll notice that we've had a lot of rain in the Birmingham area. We've had a lot of rain up near Gadsden, Anniston as well. The areas that have seen the rain already are less likely to have that severe threat. Again, we have not had a lot of the atmospheres untapped down there in places like Bibb County, in Chilton County, in Coosa County, southern Talladega County. So those will be places to watch as we see this system evolve in its entirety, moving from west to east here today. I think the biggest impact for everybody, the most likely thing is going to be isolated areas of flooding. Certainly not everywhere, but you live in your neighborhood, areas that might flood versus not, areas that are prone to ponding and accumulating water more readily. That would be what I look for in greater quantity here today than tornadoes. So let's go back we'll do no laps here, and we'll take a dive back into this cell, see what's happening if we got the latest scan in there, and get another look at what's happening. So again, if you're just now joining us, meteorologist Evan Chigbera interrupting talk of Alabama because we have a tornado warning. Something that we have not said very much here in 2024. Only a handful of warnings even going back into the springtime. So we've been very lucky in that sense. We know eventually that has to end. And I see nothing here it's very impressive. We're going to keep that warning going. In fact, there's the latest scan there showing almost no gate-to-gate shear at all with this anymore. But we're going to watch this. Of course, anything that has a history of it, the environment there is more conducive. And what we have here today is weak shear. You've got winds at the surface out of the southwest, winds aloft in the atmosphere out of the west. So essentially to put that, at the surface, you have winds going in one direction. If you get vertical motion, that causes everything within that shower or that thunderstorm to rotate. And every now and then you will get a spin up like what we just saw here, where the atmosphere has just enough of that rotation to at least show signs of producing a tornado. I see absolutely no reason why there would be one here at the moment, which is certainly good news, but that tornado warning remains in place. This goes until 10:30, again, for Hale County. So trimming that back now, it looks like if you are right at or just to the west of Harper Hill, you are in the clear. Havana, you're still in that polygon. The next sweep, though, might have you out of it. And then areas up ahead, let's see, Greenleaf Road here. We have Hoggle Road, China Grove Road, all of these areas as you get towards Phipps. And then you have National Forest Road 708, County Road 708, and County Road 50 that are out a little bit ahead of this. Again, all within Hale County. So what we're looking at is our storm relative velocities. And you'll have winds going in one direction depicted by green, and in the other direction depicted by red. And where those get closer together or you see brighter colors, that's where you have the best rotation in the atmosphere. I'm just going to look here and see if there's been any reports. And the best view we had of this was probably back when it was over near the Wedgeworth area, when we saw some pretty decent gate-to-gate shear, those bright greens, bright reds. Something else we look at is it's called correlation coefficient. Again, another fancy term for we're looking for something in the atmosphere that shouldn't be there. That's what this product is going to show us here. We call it our debris tracker. And what this is doing, the radar is sweeping and it's looking for something that is not a hydrometeor or something that's not water. It's not rain. It's not hail. It's something unknown or not typically found there, and still showing that we could have some of that. It is worth noting that being in the fall, there's a lot of leaves on the trees. They are not heavy and they go up into the air very easily. So that could easily be leaves suspended. That could be debris from a tornado that was down. We certainly do not know at the moment, but we're watching it very, very closely. So there's the latest scan, not showing any debris signature there. We'll go back to our velocity product. And yeah, we just don't really have anything in place right now that would have me suggest that there's anything left. So the red is showing winds away from the radar, and the green towards and away, as you could imagine, creates that rotating factor, that spinning factor, and we just don't have that here anymore. And
All right, so that's good news. The tornado, the signature that you normally see with the spin is not it's not there at the moment, or at least it's not showing up on radar at the moment.
So this may not be long-lasting.
I hope so.
But as of right now, it remains in effect. From Town Square Media,
Yes.
Tuscaloosa, a tornado warning for Hale County, part of our listening area. You should be in a safe place if you are in Hale County until, as of now, 10:30 this morning.
Yes, and we did just get a note from the Weather Service that it is still in effect, and Phipps is the next city that they're just wanting us to alert. Phipps, if you're in that area, please make sure you're in a safe place, because even though it's not showing up huge, there is still rotation there. It is still a tornado warning.
And some wind gusts reported 30 to 40 miles per hour, and possible pea-sized hail seen and being reported in parts of Hale County this morning to go along with this.
And like Evan mentioned a few minutes ago, you don't see as much lightning, which usually does accompany a storm like this. In fact, we're seeing hardly any lightning strikes at the moment, so it can sneak up on folks, which is the danger. You're not prepared, and then all of a sudden a tornado's on top of it.
A pop-up tornado warning from out of nowhere.
Right. We're not expecting this. In fact, we talked earlier this morning about it, and we're told probably just heavy rain, and that's about it.
Possible, but not likely, and now we have a tornado warning.
Yes. Moving through Hale County at the moment.
And check in on this tornado warning here again. I'm going to go back to the big picture. Sorry, I'm trying to switch out some mics here and all sorts of other stuff while we're behind the scenes TV. But again, watching this tornado warning, it is over in Hale County. It is the lone warning we have at the moment. We'll hop into there, switching over to our storm relative velocity. And again, really not showing anything. There's certainly no tornado here at the moment. We saw a couple good-looking scans a little while ago that may have indicated that we had something at least trying to form. But for the time being, things are certainly looking much better, more promising in the sense of not having a tornado in place. So we'll continue to stay with this here. As we go through the day today, we will have this potential of a spin-up or two, and it's going to be in our southernmost counties. What I mean by that is I'll go back to some of the graphics I was working on out here, and this is a look at the SPC outlook for today. So we're already kind of at that window. It's say 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., but time fluctuates with this, with a situation like this. And as we've already seen, we kind of have the dynamics in play to already have had a strong thunderstorm like what we're seeing right now. But the areas from Demopolis over to Clanton to Alexander City, these are all locations where conditions are going to be a little bit better for maybe some gusty winds.
Yeah, it looks like Hale, Perry, and Bibb are the counties that have the greatest threat between now and 7 p.m. today. Hale, Perry, and Bibb counties.
Likely, really not likely at all. We're looking at more of a rain event, but this is what we're kind of thinking of the going forecast here today. Our setup, we have a tremendous amount of moisture in place, and that has certainly led to some torrential downpours at this point. We'll check on the watches and warnings here. We have that aerial flood advisory for Jefferson County from continued heavy rain, and then the lone tornado warning down there in Hale County. So again, going to be a big rainmaker here today, a couple strong thunderstorms as well. I'm going to go to a future view here very quickly while we're waiting for that next radar scan to come into play. But this is at about noon, and once again, we're looking at a lot of that rain, those thunderstorms there, stretching from a line of say, Center back towards Talladega to Clanton and back to Demopolis. Very heavy rain and the potential for a spin up, maybe some gusty winds. If you're to the north and west of that line there's really not a severe threat as we go through the day today.
County by the National Weather Service.
Make it a Crimson Tide Christmas with Alabama gifts for all the good fans on your list. Shop Alumni Hall
and receive 1 month free rent.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Mostly cloudy and very mild today with a few periods of rain, maybe a thunderstorm in spots, the high 70. Tonight, rain ending by midnight, then turning colder, the low 37. For tomorrow, partially sunny and breezy, the high at 48. I'm James Spann on the ABC 30-40 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 66 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:59, and there has been a tornado watch, and I should say tornado warning for Hale County. So we are not on the air as far as our show. We are on the app. You can listen to us on the app, and I know a lot of people are, but right now we're doing weather coverage on all of the Town Square radio stations. But that is going to wrap it up for the first hour of the Gary Harris Show. And it's been brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. When we come back, we'll be in hour number 2, and we're still going strong on the app. Keep it dialed in for more of the Gary Harris Show.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Steve DeSager.
The Bengals pulled out a victory at Dallas Monday night, 27-20. Each team now 5-8. With under 2 minutes left in a tie game, Dallas muffed a blocked punt, giving Cincinnati a first down after its recovery. And this was right after a 4th and 27. Jamar Chase with the game-winning touchdown reception with about a minute to go. His second TD of the night. Chase had 14 catches for 177 yards. Saints quarterback Derek Carr could be out for the season, according to NFL media, with a broken left hand. Raiders quarterback Aiden O'Connell's knee injury is a bone bruise. Sunday, he was carted off with his leg in an air cast. And Panthers rookie running back Jonathan Brooks did tear his ACL again. He'd hurt it just over a year ago in college. The 4 finalists for the
800-564-9170. What do you have to lose? Call 800-564-9170. Again, 800-564-9170.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, here we go. Hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. I'm your host, Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld is manning the controls. Your phone calls are welcome, 205-342-9904. That's the number of the hotline, the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline, Pinnacle Park at North River. Luxury townhomes near beautiful Lake Tuscaloosa. Find out more at pinnacleparknr.com. You have to see these townhomes to believe them. Each one is uniquely constructed, and it is a beautiful gated community near Lake Tuscaloosa. PinnacleParkNR.com for more info. Okay, update on the weather. The tornado warning for Hale County has expired, and so we are back on the radio as well as on the app. So we're thankful that that tornado warning has expired and that no tornado came from it, and everyone is okay. And we're back to regular broadcast on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM. And like I said, also, of course, on the app, Tide 109 app, and on the live stream at Tide109.com. Kayla Anderson coming up in the next segment with the Tennessee Titans report. Randy Ross, former Alabama assistant football coach, administrator, also former assistant coach at SMU. So unique perspective on the college football playoff from Randy Ross coming up at 10:30. As I said, your phone calls are welcome, 205-342-9904. Let me bring Chase in for a minute here. And Chase, we've been watching the weather. Obviously, we're weather aware. I talk a lot about the weather because it's a big part of our lives. But in Alabama, man, it is amazing, the weather diversity that we have. You know, you hit a spell where it actually feels like winter for a few days, and you're like, ooh, it's cold. And now we're back to 60s at night and 70s in the day and tornado warnings, man. It's just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm learning to be versatile for real. This is crazy, Gary.
It is. And we've got flood warnings out now for Jefferson County, which is just up the road, of course, in the Birmingham area. So, man, just a lot of weird things happening with the weather. But we'll keep you updated. And, of course, Town Square has a policy. If there are any warnings, all of our stations go to weather coverage. So you'll be able to get the latest if anything were to happen. All right, we had a great interview with Drew DeArmond. I don't know how much of it you got to hear because of the weather interruption, but it'll be available on our podcast as well. You can get that anywhere you get your podcast. Right now, let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline and welcome in our pal Robbie. Hey, Robbie, what's up?
Hey, Gary. Hope you're staying safe in this weather. It's starting to hit Birmingham now as far as the heavy rain, but I think y'all getting a lot worse.
Well, we actually, rain-wise, have not been too bad. It's I think most of the flooding is up your way, or at least the expected flooding. We've had some rain, but it's actually right now just kind of a mist here. But I know you're like you said, you're expected to get some really heavy rain.
We've been getting it, yeah. Yard was flooded, and the roads are bad already. So it was some heavy stuff. But I know I hadn't called in a while. Been real busy with Stryker. He's keeping us on our toes, but he gave us one night for me and my wife to go out and enjoy our anniversary. He was good, so we had 2 nurses with him, and we went to dinner for our first time. And like every other Bama fan, I was talking to people sitting next to me while we're eating, like just mad that we're not in, but also understand, we take care of business. We're in. Can't score 3 points against Oklahoma. But, I'm tired of hearing about how 6-6 Oklahoma can't lose them. They have the 6th hardest schedule in all of football. You look at their losses, they're all the SEC teams who are all really good. South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Like, they lost all the good teams in the SEC. So you can't say that they stunk when they played that gauntlet of a schedule. So
that's right. That's right.
But it is what it is, and I'm seeing what players are leaving and what's staying. I hate that part, but I understand it also. Do you think you think Coach Franklin and Penn State players were excited when they saw SMU flash across the screen that they're playing instead of Bama?
Now listen, yeah, and Penn and SMU may surprise us, but yeah, I think they were. I think if you looked at Penn State at home against SMU, and let's just say this was a September game, it wouldn't even hardly move the meter. It just wouldn't have a lot of excitement to it. So I think when you look at this playoff, if you'd have told Penn State that they were going to lose the Big Ten championship game and then get a home game against SMU, they would sign up for it. So, maybe SMU will surprise us, but I think Penn State's got a big advantage there. Although I think if Alabama had gotten in, the way they would have seeded it, I still feel like Notre Dame would have been then seated ahead of Penn State, and Alabama would have gone to Notre Dame. I think that's the way they would have made it happen. But with Bama not in, so I think Penn State's pretty happy with their draw.
Yeah, and then right there where you just said, I'm sure Notre Dame's happy with getting Indiana. So
yeah, I think they're probably happy too. So I guarantee you this: both of them. If you'd said, do you have your choice between hosting Indiana for Notre Dame and SMU for Penn State over Alabama, they said, yeah, we'll take Indiana and SMU. So, but that's like you said, that's the way it is. Alabama didn't get in. I still think it's kind of bogus. I think the ACC should have been a one-bid league, but the Big Ten got 4 teams in, and the ACC got 2. And the SEC sandwiched between them with 3, and I think that's a loss for the SEC.
Yeah, it is, and I wouldn't doubt that when Clemson jumped up on that big lead, it looked like they were just going to run them out the thing. That the ACC commissioner went to him and said, "Hey, make this game a lot better."
Well, they sure did, and you're either, like you said, you're pulling for an SMU win first of all, because if SMU wins, Alabama's in. Secondly, you're pulling for a Clemson blowout, and then that didn't happen. So once it got tied up, you're pulling for an SMU win in overtime, and I'll be doggone if they tied the thing up in for 16 seconds. they can't even keep it tied. I mean, to give up a kick return in that situation, the one thing you can't do is give up a big kick return. And then that set up Clemson to complete one pass and then still give the kid credit. I mean, he kicked a 56-yard field goal. I mean, it wasn't like it was 36 or 46. It was 56 yards, man. And he drilled it. So it just wasn't meant to be for Alabama, but it's disappointing.
It is. So, and then play Michigan with probably half a team. But we got some players that I'm sure will be there that are trying to get their spot for next year, so it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I hope they win it. That's a big game because it gets Michigan, number one, payback for last year. Number two, it keeps the 10-win streak alive if they can win the game. So yeah, it's an important game, Robbie.
It is very important, and I hope they know that. So, all right, Gary, and also basketball season, so I'm excited for that too. Ready to see this team.
Yeah, big one Saturday coming up against Creighton. Alabama just lost out on, if you weren't able to hear us, A.J. Dabansa, the number one recruit in the country, picked Brigham Young over Alabama a little while ago, but that wasn't unexpected. BYU came up with a huge NIL offer, from what I understand, so you can't blame the kid and his dad for that.
No, he ain't going to win a championship there. That I don't think, anyways. But
you wouldn't think, but who knows? In the modern landscape, man, who knows anymore, dude? It's all over the place. Hey, thank you, Robbie. I'm gonna get another phone call real quick.
Roll Tide.
Appreciate it. All right, let's hit Ellis before we have to go to the break. Hey, Ellis.
Roll Tide, Gary.
Yes, sir.
Hang on this minute. Sorry about that. Getting my print. I'm getting my print framed as we speak.
Good, awesome.
Yeah.
You have to send me a picture. You have to send me a picture of it once you get it framed.
Oh, I will. I'm disappointed we didn't get in, Gary. But if we took care of business, we wouldn't be talking about all this. But we didn't take care of business on the field, and especially the game against Oklahoma. I think that's what done it right there when we lost to Oklahoma that bad. And but I hate it. But I think things will get better first year, and I'm looking forward to the bowl game.
Well, I am too. Now that the page has been turned, I'm glad you said that because I think Bama fans should be excited about the bowl game. It's a chance for this team to play another game, to play against Michigan. So it's two of the marquee names in college football in a rematch of last year's college football playoff semifinal at the Rose Bowl, and it's a chance to get that 10th win. So it's a big game. You should get excited. It's another game, and and anytime you have an opportunity to play a football game, you should be excited about it, and the fans should be excited. So I think as we get closer to it, people will get excited about it. Once the team gets down there and starts preparing for it, I think there'll be some excitement. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it too.
I am. I'm looking forward to it. Like you said, we get our 10th win, and. You was talking about, a lot of people have been talking about players opting out. I don't think there's going to be. What do you think? Do you think there's going to be a lot?
Well, Coach DeBoer indicated Sunday night that he didn't think there would be minimal opt-out. So I think he feels good that the guys, now, the portal guys, that's a different story. But the guys that are eligible to play in the game, I think he feels like most of them are going to play. And I think that speaks well of them and of the culture of the team. So I certainly hope that's the case. Hey, Ellis, got to go, man. Thanks. Good to hear from you, buddy.
The brand new Southern Comfort Food Company. It also houses Finney's Pub, Ramajamas, Liza's Sweet Shop and Pizzeria, and you can learn more at VenueTuscaloosa.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Mostly cloudy and very mild today with a few periods of rain, maybe a thunderstorm in spots, the high 70. Tonight, rain ending by midnight, then turning colder, the low 37. For tomorrow, partially sunny and breezy, the high at 48. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 65 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Alabama Crimson Tide lives right here.
Down to the pylon. Touchdown, Alabama.
On Tide 100.9.
Welcome back in, everybody. 10:20, and it's time for the Tennessee Titans Report with Kayla Anderson, Emmy-winning sports anchor now on Ramon, Kayla, and Will on 104.5 The Zone in Nashville. And she joins us every Tuesday to talk Tennessee Titans. Good morning, Kayla.
Morning, Gary. How are you guys feeling? It is a dreary, cold day here in Nashville to match the vibes in the city.
Well, we've got the dreary. We don't have the cold. In fact, we've been dealing with some tornado warnings this morning, so it's been interrupting the show. But it's been just crazy here, and some flooding up the road from us, and everything else. So yeah, weather aware for sure.
Absolutely, stay safe up there, you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Well, just when you think it can't get any worse for the Titans, I guess it did. I want to say they lost arguably the worst team in the league, but I guess Tennessee's in the conversation for that as well, after losing at home to the Jacksonville Jaguars and scoring 6 points in the process. 10-6, Mac Jones subbing for Trevor Lawrence, and Jacksonville's offense didn't do much. But late in the game, they were able to put together a drive, and that was enough. Just a really disappointing home loss for Tennessee.
It really was. And I think that a lot of fans started to slowly get back on the Will Levis train prior to this. And I know that they lost that game to the Commanders, and it did not look good. But that was more so of a defensive collapse, right? If you look at this game, the defense bounced back, held Jacksonville in terms of, rushing yards. They limited them there, limited them in points. My goodness, special teams was actually good. And that's been something that they've had an issue with. But this has been the story all year, Gary. When one thing goes right in a game, the next week it looks bad. It's like whack-a-mole. I've said this on the show before, but it's really a thing with this team. They can't ever figure out how to put it all together. And even against, I agree with you. I mean, technically coming into this game, Gary, the Jags were one of the worst teams in the league, worse than the Titans with only 2 wins on the season. And everyone was thinking, okay, this is the game where this offense really starts to click. They felt the defense would come back and have a good performance, as it did. And sure enough, we don't see that. And we all now are thinking, okay, is Will Levis, really going to be the answer moving forward? Because when it comes to scoring in red zone situations this year, the Titans have been awful. And that's one of the things the coaches said leading up to the week that they wanted to work on, and especially with Will Levis. He flat out missed Chigakonkwo on one of those, which would have been points, which ultimately, could have won this game when it's all said and done.
You look at the rest of the schedule, it's down to 4 games, and they host Cincinnati. Obviously, that'll be a big game for Brian Callahan. And you look at the Bengals last night. Finally, their luck turned a little bit. They have had a tough luck team. They get a punt blocked, and they wind up retaining possession after a Cowboy touched the ball past the line of scrimmage, and they win that game 27-20. The thing about the Bengals, and we say this about a lot of teams, but their record really is deceiving. I mean, when you look at their offense, Kayla, you still feel like with Burrow and Chase and those guys that they can score every time they touch the ball. That's a dynamic offense, and looks like a huge task for Tennessee on Sunday against this team.
Yeah, it's one of the oddest seasons that I've seen come out of a team with that high caliber of an offense, with a guy in Joe Burrow who he said it himself, he thinks it's one of his best seasons to date. And then you've got the weapon like Jamar Chase, who I cannot believe they have not given him a deal yet, because he's going to get a lot of money when it's all said and done after this season, continuing to prove the high caliber receiver he is. It is going to be a tough task, Gary, because like I said, with this team, you never know what you're going to get on any given Sunday. And that's not a good thing with this Titans team, because as much as we thought the defense put it all together in this last game and played a pretty good game, and for the most part, they've done good things this season, the defense has, more so than the offense. I just don't see, even with a Bengals defense that's not performing well, and probably the big reason why they have the record they do this year. They've just been allowing offenses to stay on the field. What do I have to prove that the Titans can do that against them? They didn't do it against the Jags, which were literally one of the worst defenses in the NFL this year. They couldn't do it against them. So what makes me think they're going to be able to do it against this Bengals defense? And then to speak about the offense that this Bengals team has, I just think it's going to be a long day. I really do. And I get that it's Brian Callahan's former team and the storylines that come with it, and I'm sure he does not want to be embarrassed either. But to this point, Gary, it's more about just admitting that the roster is just not as talented as it needs to be right now, and there's a lot of young players that really don't know how to win at this point. So I don't see it going well, but again, I could say that, and they could end up surprising everybody, just the inconsistency of this team that it's been all season.
Will Levis just continues to, try to audition for this team long term. And as you pointed out during our updates, at times you see the talent. I mean, obviously the physical specimen that he is. And then you see the downside. I mean, maybe it doesn't work out for him in Tennessee and he goes somewhere and flourishes. We're seeing these highly, drafted quarterbacks make it sometimes 2 or 3 stops down the road. But that also tells you that there are quarterbacks out there that are available that you could get, or certainly, obviously, the draft is a possibility too. But the way these quarterbacks play in the NFL, unless you've got your guy, there's always a possibility to find another one. And I guess with Tennessee, it's just going to come down to the offseason. They'll have to evaluate and look at his body of work and decide whether they want to go forward with him, right?
Yeah, and to your point, Gary, I mean, you're looking what the Minnesota Vikings are doing with Sam Darnold. I mean, in all intents and purposes, and I'll be the first to admit, Gary, I never thought Sam Darnold, because he wasn't able to do it for so long, and he was a first-round pick, I didn't think he was going to put it together. And sure enough, he's proven me wrong this season, going to the Vikings, and yes, going to a very good situation where he has some really good talent around him. And then also, I think, a coach that understands the quarterback. And he's also learned from years of kind of having made mistakes and been with organizations where it's presented him with a lot of adversity, that now maybe he's grown to the quarterback that they wish he could have been 4 years ago. So it is out there and it is possible. What I think that they might do, Gary, is we'll see what happens the rest of the season with 4 games to go. Because Will Levis has improved on some things, but can he really take this team to the next level? That is still very uncertain, and they still have to add so many parts to be a better team next year. I could see them going in and getting a veteran quarterback with one deal left on Will Levis's contract and letting him battle it out, right? Letting him battle it out during training camp. Then the worst thing you have is Will Levis as a backup, or if they feel like he is competent enough to start, then you have that veteran as a backup. So I think that's the route they'll go, if anything. I just don't think they're going to go get a quarterback in a draft that's not really known to have a lot of great quarterbacks this year. And again, I think they've got the 6th pick right now. There's so many crappy teams in the league that it's a bad year to be crappy.
Yeah, it is. And lastly, Kayla, what's your evaluation of the job that Brian Callahan has done? Obviously, young coach, had a good resume coming in, but this has been different as a head coach for him. How do you feel he's done it in his first year in the job?
Yeah, it's a fair question, too, because he was actually asked about his job security yesterday at the presser when he speaks on Mondays. I mean, they flat out asked him, do you feel secure in your job right now? Because 2 years ago, Gary, the GM here, John Robinson, was fired on this very day, and no one saw it coming. I think right now there has been talk about Brian Callahan. Is he the real man for the job? It's really hard to see through all the fog because there are so many things that have not gone right for this team that are out of his control. You know, you talk about the young kids on this team, the young players on this team. that is what it is. They flipped 50% of their roster this year. And while they did add pieces, not all of them have worked out or they've been injured. And then you have the whole thing coming into play, too, that you've got a brand new staff around you, and you are still working it out as a head coach because it's his first time, too. I think he's done a lot of good things right. I think the culture in terms of the locker room, not the culture on the field of winning, but the locker room culture to be this together still when things are this bad, I think that you give him credit for that because that is hard to do when a team is that bad. And these guys have not really been divided in any aspect throughout the season. But they've got to win games when it's all said and done. And I think taking a step back and losing to the Jags, that even made me question, if he's the man for the job. But, Gary, I'll let him have these 4 games the rest of the year to really make a clear statement on that. I think he'll be here next year. But if it doesn't go well to start the year, I could see them making a change.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, great stuff as always. And let the listeners in on the different platforms where they can follow you.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Kayla Anderson TV. You can also download our podcast. It is in the mornings. It's at Ramon, Kayla, and Will, talking everything in terms of the Titans and college football.
Thank you, Kayla.
Thanks so much, Gary.
All right, it is 10:31, and we're going to get to the break, and we're going to come back and talk college football playoff and more with Randy Ross, longtime college football coach at Alabama.
$5.55 for 15% off your first purchase. Love it or return it for free. That's LUME deodorant.com, code 5555 to save 15% today.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:35. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and it's time to visit with Coach Randy Ross and his very unique take on the college football playoff, and I'll get to more on that in a moment. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Hey, Gary. Good morning, my man. How are you today?
Doing great. You back in Alabama? You back home these days? Or are you still up in Wyoming or Montana or wherever it is you spend some time? Jackson Hole, I guess.
Yeah, we spend 4 months in Wyoming in the summertime, but we're back home, and it's fun to get back and be in the state during football season. And
absolutely. Well, you had to be feeling kind of peculiar Saturday night and Sunday morning, having spent 17 years at Alabama, 11 years at SMU, and have that final spot in the college football playoff come down to those two teams. And despite the SEC and the prominence of Alabama, SMU got that final nod ahead of the Crimson Tide. What was your reaction when you saw that?
Well, you know what, Gary, I probably look at this thing a little different, and this is strictly my opinion. And they say every year we want to take the best teams at the end of the year. And, personally speaking, I love my time at SMU. It was a great 11 years, worked with some great people there and worked with some great people and from some good coaches. But if you boil down at the end of the year and you break all this stuff down and look at it, and I personally, as much as I enjoyed being at SMU, I just can't say that I think they should have been in the top 12. Now, a lot of people disagree, and that's fine. But if you really get down and you dissect everything that went on with that team throughout the year and the teams that they played, and I think you've got to look at all that. And I really think, and I'm not just saying Alabama should have got in. I mean, you look at Ole Miss's schedule, and you look at what South Carolina was doing at the end of the year, and if I were a betting man and I was going to bet on Alabama versus SMU, Ole Miss versus SMU, or South Carolina versus SMU, I'm going to bet on all three of those teams playing against them.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that's getting lost in the Bama fatigue or anti-Bama bias, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people are just giddy over Alabama not getting in, but really it reflects poorly on the SEC. I think you bring up a good point in that the Big Ten got 4 teams in. The Big Ten and the SEC are kind of linked as the 2 top conferences. And for the SEC to only get 3 teams in, and really the ACC is just not considered at that same level with the SEC. And they've got 2 teams in. So I think you're right. I think for the SEC, whether it was Alabama or Ole Miss or South Carolina, not to get that 4th team in, that's a fail to me. And I'm sure that Greg Sankey and the conference office are I'm sure they've already had meetings as to why this happened.
Well, and I agree. And, it's disappointing to me because I really think I got a good perspective. When I was living in Texas for 11 years, I was in Arkansas for a few years, and people literally are so jealous. And I've said this on your show before and to you that they're so jealous. People can't imagine how jealous people are of Alabama. When you're in other states, they literally want them to get beat so bad they rejoice when they do. But if you go back and take this thing down, and here's the thing to me: if we're going to use the statement, we're going to take the best 12 teams at the end of the year. Don't tell me who they beat during the year that was ranked in the top 25. Let's look at the end of the year. The teams that ended up ranked in the top 25. That's supposed to be the best 25 teams in the country. So at the end, and so SMU ends up at the end of the year, they played 2 teams. I think I could be wrong, but I think they played 2 teams that ended up in the final. This is the playoff committee's final 25. They played BYU and they played Clemson, and they lost to both of them. Then here's one I'm going to throw out there. I'm going to make a lot of people mad probably, but Texas. If you look at Texas's schedule, they ended up playing nobody that finished in the top 25 except for Georgia. They played them twice, and they lost both times. That was the only team, I think, you can correct me, that ended up in the top final 25. Those are the things that if I'm on a committee, I'm sitting there, I'm going to look at the final 25, not where they were ranked when you played them the 4th game of the year. Nobody knows at that time anyway. It's just a guessing game. So to me, I think the argument should be who's the best. And I'm not saying Alabama. I'm saying Ole Miss, South Carolina. I'm going to be upset if I'm at one of those 2 places. At the end of the year, they may have been one of the best 12 teams in the country. And so that's my whole argument. But I'm going to say this, and I really believe this, that I think when you get a committee of people, 13 people in a room, it's human nature. There's a little bias towards Alabama. There's a little bias towards SEC. I went back and looked. Over the last 30 years, the SEC has won 50% of all national championships. Now, that's a lot. And Alabama's won 6 of those. I think human nature, as bad as they don't want it to be that way, I think when you get in that room, anytime there's a little room for error and you can vote against Alabama or the SEC, I think you're going to do it. And that's my personal opinion. I don't have any. I only know one guy on that committee. It was our AD at Arkansas. Worked for him for 3 years, but I just think that's a human nature thing. Is when they get in that room, they start voting. And I hate to say that. And I hope it's not true, but I think it is true.
Yeah, you're talking about Hunter Yurachek, of course, the AD at Arkansas on the committee that you worked for.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong, Randy. I mean, I look at from the time Saban got here, and it happened so fast. He in the second year, 2008, they went 12-0 before losing a 4th quarter game to Tim Tebow in Florida in the SEC championship, and then 2009 won the national championship. And I think people saw what was coming, and immediately rules started being put in. You took the head coaches off the road, and then later, the rules with the RPOs were, guys were downfield blocking and throwing off of that, and you had to adjust the game because I think the Saban effect was real. And you're right, there's jealousy and envy of Alabama, and a lot of people, and it's disappointing that are in this conference. They cover this conference in the media that are so excited that Alabama didn't get in. You alluded to for the SEC. Do you think that this could expedite? Because I know initially everybody had to kind of do what they had to do to get this playoff expanded to 16, and you had to make some guarantees that there would be a non-Power 4 conference team in, and this is ridiculous that the way these seedings are set up with conference champions, some of them getting byes and so forth. But do you think that this could expedite the Super Conference, the Big Ten, the SEC, maybe a few others pulling out? And much like the NFL, you have 30-something teams, and all of them play only teams in that Super Conference. Do you think that's coming?
I wouldn't doubt it a bit in the world. In 2015, I remember there was a meeting of ADs. I think they all met in California, the big boys and all that, and they wanted to go to 4 conferences. And everybody said, it ain't going to ever happen. Well, it did. We got 4 major conferences now, and they started saying that. And I think when you start hearing stuff about super conferences, I think we're headed in that direction right now with the NIL, with the portal, with everything that's going on. They've got to get their hands around this whole thing somehow. And I think it's going to come down to saying, you know what, we're just going to take the 30 or whatever number it is and have a super conference, because the whole plan was to eliminate, back in 2015, everybody kept saying they were going to eliminate the Big 12. You just kind of spread them across the country. Well, lo and behold, they end up disbanding the Pac-10, or whatever it's called, Pac-12 or whatever. But so I think when we're hearing that, I think there's going to be some truth to that, and I don't doubt one bit. And that's what they should do. They're not worried about kids going to class right now. All they're worried about is basically, playing college football. It's a big-time money thing now. And, the NCAA kind of reminds me of a guy I watched him the other day trying to blow leaves off of a driveway in the windy conditions. He'd blow part of it off, go start blowing some more off, and by the time he got that blown off, the leaves are covered up on the end. He just blew off, and he can't even get the driveway. And that's what the NCAA is doing. They're out there blowing a bunch of leaves off the driveway. The wind's blowing them back on faster than they can get them off. And so I think right now with the NIL, the portal, and the playoffs and all the things that's going on, I just really think that we're headed towards that. I really do.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to ask, based on that, when you look at let's just go back 5 years ago to 2019 at this time, it was completely different than it is now. And what do you think it's going to look like 5 years from now? Do you think that the players will actually be employees? Do you think athletic departments will be auxiliaries of the university? Do you think they'll have contracts? I mean, we can't really say because only time will tell, but I think it's safe to assume with where we're at right now that 5 years from now, the game will look a lot different than it does right now. Would you think that's fair?
Yes, I agree with you 100%. And I think one time I mentioned to you on air about, I got a buddy at the NCAA talks about, they're waiting for a certain period of time to happen because they're getting no support right now on some of the things that they're wanting to do. But I was at a Christmas party last night. A guy had just gotten back from Washington, D.C., and he talked to, I guess, some representatives, whatever. They're waiting probably sometime February, March. There's a lot of talk. You would, I guess, be surprised that those guys don't have more to do than worry about college football, but they're very involved in it right now. Little Tommy Tuberville's got some things on the table, and one of the things that I'm hearing from people trying to piece it all together is that they're plan to make this thing hopefully get some teeth in it. And I don't know enough about it to totally understand this. This guy was involved in that area of work, but he said a goal now to help get it under control would be exactly what you said. They would become employees of the university. And therefore, then when they go to the court with all this stuff, they would have a better chance to have some kind of cap, some kind of control over it as an employee rather than the student athlete, if that makes sense. And that was kind of how he described it. Hopefully they're thinking, sometime again, maybe, February, March, they're going to have enough backing to maybe get that going.
All right, Coach, you look at this 12-team field, Big Ten with 4, the SEC with 3. Of course, Georgia, it looks like it's going to be without Carson Beck. Gunnar Stockton did come in the second half of the SEC championship game and lead them to a victory over Texas. But you've got Georgia and Texas and Tennessee. And I thought Tennessee got the short end of the stick. I thought they should have been seeded ahead of Ohio State and gotten the home game, but it didn't happen. Big Ten with 4 teams, so they've got a built-in advantage going in. Who do you think ultimately wins the national championship?
Wow, that's a great question. I tell you what, if Georgia hadn't lost Carson Beck, they're a hard team to pull against, man, because they know how to win and everything. But here's my wish: is if you look at the bracket, you could end up with 2 SEC teams in the national championship, and I'd love to see Texas and Georgia. How about that now? They played 3 times this year.
Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something?
I don't know if that's ever happened. I don't know if it's ever happened in college.
It's never happened.
Why not?
No.
That's right. Why not let it happen this year? We're having all these firsts. Every day we turn around, there's a new first in college football. So, you know, I'm going to be betting on Georgia, even though they going with the Stockton kid. I thought he did great other night coming off the bench and against a good team. So I think it's going to be pretty hard to way that bracket is set up. I know Oregon's good. I don't know how good because I don't know who they comparatively played and people in the SEC Big Ten's played. But I'd love to see Texas and Georgia meet each other again. I think it'd just be one of the unique things that would even be more unique that we've had going on in college football.
It would be crazy. And finally, for Alabama, because you have to get over it, you have to move on. They get the bowl game, the ReliaQuest Bowl in Tampa on New Year's Eve against Michigan. And for Alabama, there's, a lot to play for. You're trying to win 10 games to keep that streak alive. They've won 10 games or more every year since 2008. For Coach DeBoer, I think it's important to finish the season off in the right way, build some momentum going into next year. And, of course, you've got to see, what happens with the portal and the opt-outs. But I think for Alabama players, fans, and obviously the coaching staff, once they get over the disappointment of this college football playoff omission, that's a big game. I mean, 2 of the marquee names in the history of college football, rematch of last year's college football playoff semifinal. There's a lot for Alabama to play for still in this game.
Well, and there is, and I feel for those guys over there. I mean, I really, really do. You're so used to being in the playoffs, and it's kind of a downer. You got to get through that. You got to get through the emotions and the disappointments amongst the players because expectations were, this team would definitely make one of the 12 when the season started. Now all of a sudden you've got that to face with. So what you got to do is the things you're saying, and I know those coaches are every day. They're talking. The 10-game deal, the fact that Michigan beat Alabama last year, and so they're trying to motivate, keep their team together during this bowl game, and kids leaving portal. You got all these distractions, so it's a big obstacle. Now, if you're in the playoffs, it's no big deal, or if you're a team that hadn't been going to bowl games and you get in a bowl game, there's an excitement at that school that you don't have to try to talk the kids into playing in it because some of them never even been in a bowl game, and so. They've got their work cut out trying to keep all those guys together, but I really think at the end of the day, there's still enough pride in the University of Alabama and what it means, and hopefully there's enough kids that it'll mean enough to them to want to go extend that 10-game winning streak and to go back and win a bowl game and finish the year for the seniors on their last game winning, not being being left out of the playoffs, and the next best thing is go win the bowl game.
Absolutely, Coach. Well, great to visit with you as always. I've enjoyed it, and we'll do it again soon. Thank you.
Okay, Gary. Thanks, buddy. You have a good day.
Coach Randy Ross with us. It's 10:51 here on the Gary Harris Show. And if you want to have your house look its best for the holidays, there's still time. Houston Hyder Steam and Carpet Cleaning has been in business for 40 years, a locally owned business that makes it 40 years. What does that tell you? Well, it tells you that Jackie Houston and company do it right. Houston Hyder Steam can do your floors. They can do your carpet. They can take care of your bathrooms, grout in the showers. Man, it's just, it can make the difference in having your home look just okay or look fabulous for the holidays. That's Houston Hyder Steam, upholstery and carpet cleaning. All right, we're going to be back with one final segment, and we'll get ready to wrap it up and get you ready for T-Town Sports Daily next year on the Gary Harris Show.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Tuesday edition of The Game, we're going to talk to Mike Detillier, WWL, the Big 870. We'll cover this transfer portal, and we're going to talk about what's next for the Alabama Crimson Tide. All starting at 2 p.m. here on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa.
For 15% off your first purchase. Love it or return it for free. That's LUMEdeodorant.com, code 500 to save 15% today.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Mostly cloudy and very mild today with a few periods of rain, maybe a thunderstorm in spots, the high 70. Tonight, rain ending by midnight, then turning colder, the low 37. For tomorrow, partially sunny and breezy, the high at 48. I'm James Spann on the ABC 30 through 40 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 65 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Never miss a moment of the action. Download the free Tide 100.9 app today.
All right, 10:55. Welcome back in, and we're going to squeeze in Bryce real quick before the end of the show. Hey, Bryce, good morning.
Hey, Gary, two of your guests couldn't sum it up any better about the college playoffs. What happened? You know, Randy I thought was dead on. You know, I really believe that way too. You know, when they get in that break, right. You know, they're Alabama biased. You know, unfortunately, that's the way it is. You know, believe it or not. And Drew, what he said made a lot of sense too. You know, because I listen to Drew every morning. You know, being from Huntsville, I like the local scene. You know, but it's been a crazy morning. Tornado warning breaking in.
Yeah, man. It's shoot. I tell you, it's been nerve wracking, but hopefully we're gonna get through it. But just the weather, man. It's just every day it seems like it's something different in this part of the country.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, when I moved back here from Texas, you know, we used to have tornado season, and now, you know, we have it's all year round. You know, unfortunately, you know, you never know, but it used to just be like a season of it. However, one more thing, based on what I heard Coach DeBoer said, there's probably two that I know of are not going to play in the bowl game because he's going to let them tell what they're going to do, and that'd be Melrose and Booker. And that's how I read through the tea leaves. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I don't know. I be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if they played, but we'll see. We'll see how it works out, and you know, whoever you got to get them ready to go. And Alabama needs to go down there and win a football game. They need to go down there and beat Michigan and finish the season off the right way and have a lot of positive momentum going into next year.
It won't be a bad thing if they don't, because we can move on and see what we got to work with next year. You know, but him singling them two out, that's how I read it anyway. But hey, I've been wrong before, but that's the way I looked at it. But thanks for letting me talk, Gary. All
right, Drew. Bryce, I appreciate you. All right, it's 10:58. We're going to close it out here. Get you ready for T-Town Sports Daily. Catch me on TV tonight with the local sports and with Rodney Orr for Tider Insider TV at 6:30 on WVUA 23. Then back here tomorrow for the Wednesday edition of the Gary Harris Show. Have a great day, everybody. Stay weather aware.